Hello, greetings everybody. I want to welcome you here to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So we're here Monday night to do a look back at a classic rock album. I've chosen one from my playlist. Been on the playlist about 5 months, so I feel pretty comfortable with the album now. I feel like I know what I'm listening to and what I want to listen to and what parts I like, and even some of the titles of the albums. That usually takes me the longest, that part. So anyways, this album is IQ's Seventh House, released on August of 2000. Yeah, a couple months after I bought my first house. Yeah, and so it was recorded at Worm Studios in Darwin, No Man's Land in New Forest. I'm not really sure where that is. I'm assuming it's somewhere in England, but I could be wrong. But that's where I'm assuming. Anyways, it's about 56, 57 minutes in length. Pretty long album. But I find most of the albums by this time, by groups of this stature, are fairly lengthy. An hour is usually normal for them. It's still a bit long for me, but I don't mind it. I've gotten kind of used to that idea, so it doesn't bother me too much. This is on the Giant Electric P label. Yeah. I don't see that anywhere on here, but I'm sure. Oh, yeah, there it is. Giant Electric P. That's a kind of a nice bright orange color, this album. Got a nice book that comes with it as well. I got this album, I'm almost certain I got this album at Laser CD, where I get most of the stuff that is harder to find. I usually go to my own record store. I try to patronize them as much as possible because they get the stuff the bulk stuff that I like. But some of the harder stuff to get, I'll go to Laser CD. I have bought a few online from Amazon, but can't be bothered. So yeah, so this is a pretty solid album. Nice cover, some nice shots on the inside. Picture of the guys in the band. I don't know if you can see that. There they all are. Yeah, it's coming up a little bit hazed by the sun. So anyways, the album is one of two from this band that I have, although I've listened to at least a half dozen of them. I've ordered actually another one that should from Laser CD that may or may not arrive in time for this month's album, new albums. We will see. And this album also features IQ. The band is John Jowett on bass and vocals. He was also on the What's New album from Drifting Sun. Yeah, I think he was on that one as well. Paul Cook on drums and percussion here. He's an excellent drummer, really good. Michael Hughes on guitar and keyboards. Martin Orford on keys, flute, and vocals, and Peter Nichols on vocals as well. Now, Peter Nichols, I love his voice. It's really grown on me. I think he has a unique voice too. It's one that I recognize immediately when I hear it. Yeah, it's in that same kind of medium range that a lot of vocalists in the progressive and heavy metal genres have, but I just find his voice is a little bit different and a little bit unique sounding. And of course, I quite like this album. It's still in my playlist. I think it's up in the third spot there now, underneath the Hawkwind album. So a couple of things. There's like 6 tracks on here. You can see that if you look at the back of the album right there at the bottom. So we're doing the wrong side of a Weird first. That will be the first track here. Maybe, yeah, I think the wrong side of Weird is probably my favorite track on this album. Definitely a high 8, 9 song. Like it very much. Really catchy, upbeat track. It has some good keyboard sounds and parts. A lot of synthesizer, of course. Pretty clear and pretty dominant on this album throughout the entire album. But that's normal for this band. Lots of that symphonic sound, lots of synthesizers. They have a very kind of Genesis sound to them as well, for those of you who are new to them. Peter Nichols' voice is very distinguishable, I think. It's in that range that suits their music really well, but it's very distinguishable, I think. Got some really excellent drumming from Paul Cook. I think the bass player, John Jowett, is really good as well. Keyboardist is pretty good. I don't mind him as well, as Michael Hughes, and his guitar ability is quite good as well. They don't do excessive amounts of solos. There are solos on the album, but it's not excessive. I find that the things I like best about them is vocals by Peter Nichols. I love his vocals. That's probably my favorite thing on the album. Their catchy beats and melodies that they love to put in. The consistency of how the music goes from one part to the next and kind of meshes very well. There's not much. I would not say there's any meandering here at all on this album. Really excellent that way. Most of their albums are like that. And you get the odd great keyboard part and the odd great guitar part on here as well. So for me, I really like their sound. They're one of my favorite bands I've discovered from doing this channel. They're right up there with Gentle Giant. Those are Gentle Giant, King Crimson, IQ. Those are among my favorite bands that I've discovered on this trip. So the next this particular song, really strong on the bass, and the vocals are very strong. So those are the two dominant parts on this album. This particular track is probably the reason why it's one of my favorite. Plus the melody's really catchy, and it's got a great depth of instrumentation on it, which is important, I think. But it's not meandering in instrumentation. That part I've never cared much for, so you don't get that with these guys. The next song is called Erosion. Probably my least favorite track on the album, but I still like it quite a bit. It has a synthesizer, symphonic, atmospheric part that it opens up with. Vocals are clear and well fit to the song. The tempo picks up and becomes heavier and beefier as the song goes along. And the story is a little bit catchy too. I do like listening to the lyrics with this group. This is one of those bands that has that kind of interesting sound to their lyrics. Sometimes they're a little on the depressing side, but often they're not. And the solo was pretty strong on this song too. The next one is the title track, The Seventh House. Keyboard synthesizer opening, very emotional but very subdued, this track. But lots of that symphonic sound to it. It gets a little bit heavier, jumps up to this heavy part all of a sudden. Keyboards, guitars are quite heavy on this track. This is a catchy song, lots of up-tempo beat parts, and the vocals of Gain are dominating. I find Peter Nichols' vocals very dominating, but not, I wasn't going to say excessive, but I think it is excessive, but I don't think it's bad. I think it's, in this case, it's a good thing. Sometimes some vocalists who dominate groups, it is a good thing. Sometimes it's not a good thing. But in this case, I think it's one of those good things. The next song up is called 0 Hour. This is one of the shorter songs, sorry. Still got that little bit of that hack going on. So 0 Hour. It's got a kind of a slow build up. Some very good keyboard synthesizer effects. Lots of little noises. That's something that's common with Pink Floyd and Eloy and Hawkwind. A little bit of that here, but not excessive. So this is more of a symphonic track than most of the rest of the tracks, I think. And there's an excessive guitar solo on this. Sorry, that goes on. Fairly lengthy guitar solo. It's not a little skit part like that you get most of the time. This one's a fairly lengthy one, and a good one, I think. It's a pretty good one. A little bit lengthy for me, but I didn't mind it. Opens with, the next song is Shooting Angel. The last two tracks I do like quite a bit too. They're up there, but I don't think I like them as much as the opening track, but I do like them. This opens with a guitar solo bit and a synthesizer atmospheric feel to the song. So you get this kind of background symphonic sound with a little bit of an acoustic. I don't know if it's acoustic, but it's a very quiet guitar part. Then it gets heavy, bass, guitar, drums all come in. Really catchy part. This is one of the more catchy parts on the album. Nice riff, nice melody here. Vocals, I think, are his best on this album. Anyways, really good. And then there's a little sax part at the end, which is really good. Adds a little different element to the album and it's played along with that heavy riff that goes along with the song. So the last track is probably the longest track on the album. Guiding Light opens with this kind of piano part, which is mellow, not too heavy at all. Very just kind of brings you in slowly, and then you got this lyrical dominated part that you're in. And the reason I called that lyrical dominated is because I'm finding myself listening past the music so I can hear what he's saying, and that to me is what I mean by lyrically dominated. It's got a kind of a catchy feel. The opening part, at least, is very catchy. Then there's this strong synthesizer effect that leads to this very catchy melody and a strong instrumentation in the rest of the song. I don't know how to describe it more than that. The keyboard solo was really good as well, almost Genesis-like. Definitely wouldn't be out of place on some of the later Genesis albums, such as maybe Selling England by the Pound. That's the album that comes to mind when I hear this song. Yeah, definitely really catchy build-up. Nice kind of, really heavy Genesis effect. This is the best way I can describe it. The drums are really good on this particular track too, quite strong. He could easily be a drummer for Genesis. I think he could play their material. I think he's good enough to do that. I haven't heard anything that I think is weak at all by him, so I quite like him. So there you have it. So for today, it's The Seventh House by IQ for my look back at a classic rock album. For those of you who have not listened to this band at all, they are one of the bands that came out during the second coming of prog music, or the neo-prog movement, if you prefer. Came out right around the same time as Marillion. Marillion, of course, had more of a commercial part to them that gained them more notoriety than IQ, but definitely a band that I think if you like Marillion, you'll probably like these guys as well. And this album is definitely one of the better ones I've heard by them. But I like all of their stuff. I personally think they're better than Marillion. That's just my opinion. But at any rate, really good album. I hope you get a chance to listen to it. If you do, that's great. You can find it online. It's easy. It's not a hard thing to find. So please hit the like and subscribe. That's much appreciated. Any comments about the album, about the group, about the neo-prog movement, or anything that I've said, you can put that in the comment section below. And don't forget to hit the notification bell, and we will be back next Monday with another look back at a classic rock album. Thanks for joining me. Have a good one. Take care.